If your idea of a good time is taking a natural hike up to a waterfall, walking along paths and river streams, then the Nogalito Ecopark hike is probably what you want. The Nogalito Ecopark is approximately 4 kilometers south of the city of Puerto Vallarta. You can take a taxi or Uber right into town or to the front gate of the park. Or you can do what we did. We took a bus from the corner of Constitution and Basia Badillo. Cost us 10 pesos, and that'll drop you off at the highway on the 200 to the entrance to the town of Nogalito. From the highway, it's 1.5 kilometers or 1 mile to the center of El Nogalito. And from there, a further ½ kilometer to the entrance gate of the Eco Park itself. The drop-off point for the town of El Nogalito along the 200 is about 4 to 5 kilometers outside of town. Should take about 15 to 20 minutes to get there. Make sure you don't miss the stop. Just talk to the bus driver and he will drop you off at the appropriate location. You will see a sign on the Highway 200 directing you towards the Eco Park. It's well marked. You won't get lost. The first thing you do once you get off the bus is cross the highway and head on down this little cobblestone road. The center of town is about 1.5 kilometers or 1 mile from the road, and then from there you'll be hanging left, and that will take you to the entrance of the Eco Park, and there's lots of signage directing you. The falls is approximately 2.5 kilometers or 1.5 miles past the entrance of the Eco Park. El Nogalito is actually a very small town, and it has one road going in and out, but there is this one side street right in the middle of it that takes you towards the Eco Park. As I said, there's lots of signage pointing you in the right direction, but you can see that the town really is only one house in depth, so once you get past the first house, you're essentially walking along a dirt or cobblestone street in the woods. But shortly after leaving the town, you're going to go past a tequilery, which is very popular with a lot of the touring groups. But I must also let you know that the Eco Park has its own tequilery, as it's a very popular place to go for zip lining as well as tasting the tequilas that they actually make there. As I said before, you can take a taxi or an Uber right to the entrance of the Eco Park. Probably cost you somewhere in the order of 100 to 200 pesos, but we like taking the bus, which is only 10 pesos. But I also enjoy the walk into town here. It's just different, and I really just like the countryside, so I find it interesting. And it's such a contrast to the Eco Park itself, where essentially you're going to get lost in nature. So this is the entrance to the Eco Park. It's just past this little stream here, and you'll see that there's lots of parking on the right-hand side, but you'll be proceeding straight up a little walkway that will take you to their entranceway. At the entrance, you're seeing they'll have bathrooms. They also have their training center for zip lining. They have a bar and a restaurant. Great food here, so after the hike, we like to come back here and grab something to eat and then have our reward beer or reward drink, whatever you'd like. During the high season, which runs from about January through the end of February, the owners may ask you to pay 150 pesos per person. But the good news is when you come back here, that money is deducted from your dinner or drink bill. So after leaving the entrance, you're going to bear left, and towards the left here, that's the entrance to the start of the zip lining, but you're going to go straight down this path, and you're going to be walking along a path beside the river here. And that will take you probably half a kilometer, 3/4 of a kilometer at least, on a fairly nice little path here. The park does offer a sweat lodge. I'm not sure how that's set up. And they also have this massage building here. I'm not sure how one books this, but I'm sure if you went to the front desk and talked to them about it, something could be arranged. Now at this point there are no markings that'll take you to the falls, but there is the river itself, and the river doesn't have any branches or tributaries. Essentially you're in a valley, and the valley has this river, and you just follow along with it. Try to stay in the path as much as possible, but at one point you will need to be walking in the river. So if you want to do this trail, you really need to think about good footing, or good footwear I should say, something with good traction so you don't slip and fall. I've done this hike in October all the way through the end of April. I've never found the water levels to be overly high, so it's definitely navigable through all the high seasons, which is typically from November through the end of April. So this is February, and the water levels are quite low. I think the deepest we got to is maybe up to my thigh. If you come a little bit earlier in, let's say, November, then the waters can be a little bit higher. But typically, for most part, it's no higher than about ankle deep. Now, this trail is, I would say it's popular, but it's not as popular as something like the Paula Maria, so it is not unusual to be one of only a few groups on the trail to the falls. And that's one of the reasons I like it. It seems like you're out in nature and you're enjoying it in a lot of solitude. Since this hike is not overly used, although I think it's one of the best in the area, especially if you like nature hikes, I do recommend that you go with somebody. If you're uncomfortable, I highly recommend you get a guide. There's different people that you can look for who will take you on this hike. Just look on Vallarta Adventures or hiking group, and they can recommend somebody who will help you out here. This is one of the most interesting aspects of this particular hike. It looks like this rock was split right in half, and you're walking along a hallway for about 100 yards. It's really fascinating. It's really smooth gravel walking through here. It's one of the most unique trails I've ever been on. Like, obviously the only way to get by it is to walk through the water, but it is absolutely beautiful. From this section of the trail, you'll be coming and going or crisscrossing the river back and forth multiple times. Your feet will definitely be getting wet, so as I said, be cautious. I don't find the rocks overly slippery, but with a lot of sand, like when people walk here, that's one way you find the trail or know exactly where to go. You'll see where footprints are and sand on rocks, and that's where people have passed, and that's generally the best way to go. As you're walking, keep looking in the water, because in many of the small pools, you're going to actually see a lot of fish. I found fish here. I've got these freshwater shrimp, and I've also encountered a frog on this particular hike.
You're good.
For this particular hike, we encountered a stray puppy who decided to follow us, and part of the way he couldn't manage, so we ended up carrying him along the way, and we ended up carrying him out and left him at the Ecopark, and they were going to look for its owners. While you're walking through the river, always look for the paths on the side. Those are generally the easiest ways to get around some of the larger boulders, such as this particular place here. It's a small path just before the falls. Once you encounter it, you know you're within about 100 yards of the small falls here. So from the entrance of the Ecopark until the falls is approximately 2.5 kilometers or 1.5 miles. It's really not that difficult of a hike, but I would still say you need to be at an intermediate level, only because it is walking through the water, which can be slippery, and you are climbing around and over rocks from time to time. It's not overly dangerous or difficult, but you definitely need to be cautious, so take your time and make sure you have good footing wherever you go. So at this point, if you listen closely, you can hear the falls in the distance, and now you can see it. It's not overly large, but it is extremely natural, and it actually falls into its own basin. You need to cross this little pond here or pool and almost swim into it, and then you can actually get underneath it. In my opinion, although it's small, I think it's one of the most beautiful natural waterfalls in the area of Puerto Vallarta, and a real pleasure to hike to. The falls is just a wonderful place to hang out. You can swim in the basin or the pool just in front, or take a dip right under the falls.
That really worked. But it's 32, 34, at least would be very nice.
We were all alone at the falls, our little group, so we hung out there for about a half an hour before heading back. It's just a great place to sit back and relax and do a little bit of swimming, and such a pleasure to have it all to ourselves. As I said earlier, there's a lot of fish in the water here, and especially at this particular spot, we threw a little bit of food in the water. You can see how all the fish just attacked it. So now we have to head on back. The dog was a little bit tired, so we put him in the backpack for the return trip.
Going for a hike?
Once the ground got a little bit flatter, then we let him out again because he liked to romp down the trails, and I think he got the scent of how we progressed up here because he essentially led us all the way back home, or to the entrance of the Eco Park, I should say. As you can see from this video, the trail and the water is just absolutely gorgeous. If you want to get in touch with nature, or maybe have a change from being in the downtown of Puerto Vallarta and its beaches, highly recommend taking the Nogalito Ecopark trail. As I said, you can do it yourself, but there are different people that will guide you here. There's the Vallarta Hiking and Adventure site. Just put a note on that site, and if somebody's available, they'll reach out and they can take you here. And of course, if I'm available, I'm normally here around November through April. Just drop me a note, and if I have the time, I will take you along. Just to be clear, the Hiking and Adventure group is on Facebook. You can reach me through Facebook as well through David Living Outdoors, but I generally check my YouTube site more regularly. So just drop me a comment, and I'll see if I can reach out and give you a hand if you need it. So this again is that split rock feature where you seem to be walking down a hallway. It's very unique in the area. At least I've never encountered anything quite like it. Really enjoy it and find it fascinating. And I think one of the unique features, this and the falls itself, is what really makes this particular hike special. So one of the things we'd like to do is go back to the Eco Park and have lunch and get a reward drink. For myself, I'd like to have a beer. But one of the nice things about this particular area is they like to feed the birds, which then fly in and gorge down on some of the seeds. So it's a great place to see the birds, get close to them, and get some great pictures. Now, they do have macaws and parrots here as well, which you can take a look at. But I like the wild birds, the way they fly in here. These yellow and black ones are probably the most common, but they do have these black and blue birds, which seem to be a little more timid than these yellow ones, and they're great to see. Here's a few shots of the macaws that they keep on site. Well, that concludes our hike. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's just another picture of the outside of the Nogalito Ecopark Center, their restaurant and bar. They also have a tequilery and offer tequila tastings. Today was Raicilla, but you can ask them and see what they have. But anyways, we stopped here for lunch. I had a hamburger. Other people had shrimp burgers. It was really tasty. Here's their menu, so you can check out their prices. As I said, they charged us 150 pesos to enter the park, but we used that money against our food and drinks this day. Anyways, a few more pictures of the falls and the hike. You can see how beautiful it is. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. One pro tip: if you don't want to pay the 150 peso Entry fee, you can avoid this by walking to the river before the park entrance and around the center, and then get back on the trail from there. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe.